I'm going to go ahead and start because we've got a lot of really cool stuff on how to do this timeline today. So like I said, welcome everybody to the timeline session today. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to check out the Analyst or Timeline website, but you might want to bring that up and just kind of look through it while we're going along before Amanda jumps into her demo. Just in case you haven't seen those before, because there's some really cool stuff. So today we're going to talk about how to create an interactive timeline. And so some of the things that you can expect in this session. So we're going to cover why timelines are useful in analyst or research. We're going to do an introduction to TimelineJS. We're going to talk about how to prepare and create the interactive timeline. And then we're going to talk through tips and tricks to get the most impact from your timeline setup. And real quick, like we said before, this is anybody can do this. This is like introductory level. So once you have fun getting started, then really it's just how much you want to learn about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get us introduced. So Amanda, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Amanda Price. You're probably quite familiar with me now over the course of the weekend. I'm a code breaker. I created Analyst to Timeline. And it's also the same website that hosts the travel maps that we did a session on yesterday, and I live in Oxford, in the UK.
Marlena?
Okay, hey everyone. My name is Marlene Oliveira. I'm a code breaker and contributed to Pact with Potential. I'm from Portugal and I'm a software engineer.
Awesome. And I'm Chantel Smith, and of course I do Mariana and the Belcom stuff. And I was super excited when Amanda asked me to do a Mariana timeline. So that was my delve into this world of timelines. Okay, so why create a timeline? So timelines are easily understood by a wide audience and helps people visually understand events. So and they also provide an opportunity to distill and order information from a number of sources, which of course, as we all have seen this weekend, there are so many sources out there. And also it can provide a quick reference point for others. And of course, we've got the, what are the Enlister timelines? So as you can see, the Enlister timeline and the Mariana timeline have already been published on enlistertimeline.com. And there are more in progress. So that is exciting. And they use diary transcripts and other sources for detail and are illustrated with images and quotes. And then the future themes that are in the works is Ann Walker, Shibden Hall, and History of the Diaries. So what is TimelineJS by NightLab? So NightLab, they're the creators of TimelineJS, and they're based at Northwestern University, and they make free products designed initially for journalism. So the cool part about this is all this is free. So everything you get to do here, all and exciting. Create interactive and easy to use timelines, and anyone can use TimelineJS to create a timeline on any topic. Recent examples of it being used on newspaper websites or in classrooms. And it uses spreadsheet technology, ding, 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 spreadsheets to provide a good user experience and a logical way to present information. So how is it set up? So here's an example of the Analyst or timeline and what you see. So you've got the navigation buttons for users. On the left and the right, so you can go back and forward. You've got images in the background that should be copyright free or owned by you. And then on the timeline on the bottom, you've got the events organized by year. And of course, there in the middle, you see the explanatory text, quotes, and further information that you would add in there to provide context. So preparing to create a timeline. And obviously, the more prep or the more thorough your prep, the easier all of the follow-up is. So these are some good things, some tips to prepare. So getting your dates together and your key events and items from various sources. So there's, depending on what you're going to include, you're going to have, all sorts of dates. And so when you get those together and organize those, you can kind of start to get the picture of your story you're going to tell. And then you're going to want to figure out the text that you're going to describe these key events. So always remember these are things that people might skim through, so you want to provide them context in a way that's easy to read and follow along with. And then of course, images or other media. And for this, it is optional because you can just use text if you're just trying to quickly tell the story. But of course, it adds, the more images and stuff, it adds context and adds to the user experience. So next, we've got dates and key events. So identify your key dates and events. And you can use a range of sources, you know, but you'll want to ensure they're correct. So always double check your events and dates. And if you're not sure about a date, but you think it's correct, you can also, you know, just notate that somewhere, because as you'll see when Amanda goes through, there are areas on the timeline when you're doing the spreadsheet to indicate things like that. And then think about your audience. So like, what are they going to find interesting? Obviously, like for me, when I was doing the Mariana timeline, I started to just go down every event that I had, and I realized that that was going to potentially be tedious or too long for some people. So I tried to pull in all of the key events that I thought would really help people get that context of the story. So, you know, keep those sorts of things. So like the wider historical events, you know, if it's wars, monarchy, revolution, something that helps set the scene for this timeline story that you're going to tell. And then, of course, the top tip, don't include absolutely everything or the timeline becomes difficult to navigate. So one of the things, if you do have a giant story to tell, you can always create multiple timelines to break all of that up. Yes, your timeline can literally go on forever. So description text, consider, you know, what information you've sourced that is most interesting. So you know, quotes, people love quotes. It helps, you know, people get to know the person, explanations, sort of, you know, things like that. And since any timeline can only be an overview, you know, consider signposting to further information sources. So if you have a lot of content and you know it just really can't fit on the timeline, you know, don't hesitate to link out to other websites, because you can link as much as you want to other websites to give people more context to the story you're telling. Images and media. So you can add these, of course, to add interest and context, which everybody loves pictures. And there's all sorts of libraries out there that have historical images, portraits, places. But you can also embed music and video too. So the media, you can be really creative with the media that you use. But the most important, make sure that all the material you use is available for reuse to avoid breaking copyright laws. So make sure that either it's your picture or that you're not, you know, stealing somebody else's owned images. And so when it comes to those sorts of things, there's some a lot of really good resources out there to find copyright-free images. So Creative Commons licenses or images that are out of copyright, or there's also other versions of Creative Commons where somebody might own the copyright, but they're allowing you to use it with attribution, or, you know, sometimes they don't require you to credit them, but you can use this to find images that are usable for your timeline. And then just, yeah, always make sure that you're following the rules. And when it comes to copyright, when in doubt, just don't. So, you know, even if it's an image that you like, if you're not sure, I would just recommend finding something else in place. Okay, so another thing about images, so you might have, like, if you've gone on trips, you might have your own pictures that you've taken that you want to include, but you'll need to make sure that you're hosting that somewhere, because TimelineJS does not actually host your images, so you can't like upload them, because it's you'll be using the spreadsheet, which you'll see when Amanda does the demo. But they don't have a free upload function. So there are other options out there, like, you know, Amazon Web Services or AWS, GoDaddy, but we can definitely help get you set up with your hosting for those images, because it's, well, and we'll provide the links and stuff, but if you need help with any of that stuff, just reach out and we'll show you how it's done. And then there are some free services out there where you can host your own images, but of course, sometimes they disappear or they break. So it's always good to make sure you have a reliable source where your images are being hosted. Okay, so this is where I'm going to turn it over to Amanda so that she can show you the actual demo of how to do this. So this is the best part of this whole thing.
Thank you, Chantal. That's really good. I just want to say, if you have any questions throughout this demo, just drop them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask, and we'll try and get to them as soon as we can. I think also to say, we did include quite a lot of information relevant to this session in the Eventbrite description. We included links to all the things that, all the technology that we're using, and have suggested that you use, because you are going to need a Google account and a Google Drive if you want to start using a timeline or making a timeline. And all that information is in Eventbrite. So this is what the Night Lab website looks like, where you go to start making your timeline. This is where you're going to begin the whole process. And this is a process that could take hours, many, many hours. It's taken me many hours. I know Chantal took quite a lot of hours. The website's full of lots of really, really useful information, and you're more than welcome to go and read that, but we're just going to get started with making a timeline from scratch. So they list all the steps that you need to take in order to get the timeline started and start to get going. So absolutely go ahead and read all of this information later on. I'm going to jump right in with step number 1, how to create the timeline. So we're going to get the template. And this is going to force a template to be created on your own Google Drive. I'm already logged into my Google account. It will come up in a minute. I don't know if somebody wants to drop the link for Google Drive creation in the chat. That would be quite useful. So I'm logged in up here. You can see there I'm logged in. And this is what your timeline spreadsheet is going to look like. And it looks quite complicated. There's a lot of text. There's a lot of information here. But actually, Night Lab have been really good, and they've given us some default information just to sort of explain what all of these rows and columns are for. And they've also included titles for every column as well. And you can sort of have a look and see what's in there as you go along. So we're going to start building a timeline. We put together sort of a timeline that we probably will use in the future, but for the sake of this demo, we put it together just because we thought it would be a fun idea. So we're going to do a timeline based on the history of the Amlister diaries. So we're going to try and make about 10 slides in the time that we've got. So I'm going to start by removing all of this text. It's useful, and you probably should go through and sort of read it. It's really good, and it will give you an idea of what you need to do. But for the sake of this, we're just going to remove it, and I'm going to explain to you as we go along what all these rows and columns are for. And it will become fairly straightforward because they're all the same. You're going to be adding the dates in one place, you're going to be adding the text in one place, you're going to be adding the images and the media in one place, so it will become very apparent. There's a really handy function here where you can add a number of rows as well, and I'm going to be doing 10 slides, so I'm going to add an additional 5 rows just so that we're covered and I don't have to do that later on. It removes the formatting, which is a bit annoying. I don't know how to change that. Something I haven't learned. I have to say, I learned this on the hoof, so I'm no expert. I'm still learning to do things with this timeline, and that's the fun of it. You learn as you go along, basically. So before we start putting information into the timeline, I'm going to publish it to make it active so that we can look at it and refresh the actual timeline that people will see when they come and look at it, and we can see it change in real time. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back and follow step 2 of the Night Lab instructions. And they lay it out for you visually. It's really helpful. So this is what they're asking me to do. I need to go back into my spreadsheet and publish this spreadsheet to the web. So File, Publish to Web. And this was the next box that came up. So I'm just going to click back and double check that I'm doing correctly what they're telling me to do. So I only want to publish that one sheet. That's right. I don't want to do the entire document, just that one sheet. Publish as a web page. That's what it said, right? Yeah. And then I'm going to hit publish. Yes. I'm going to leave that for now. Go back again. Check what they want me to do. They want me to copy and paste this URL to the document. So this information up here. So I'm going to copy, go back to the night lab, and I'm going to move on to step 3. So I've got all the information for the spreadsheet that's now sitting on my Google Drive, and I'm going to copy and paste it into here, paste, and I'm going to hit enter to generate a timeline. Well, hopefully that's worked. We'll find out in a second. They have all sorts of customization options here. I'm going to leave everything default for today because we don't have time to be messing around with it, but it can be fun to go in and sort of customize things, change the fonts. There's all sorts of bits and pieces that you can do. But for now, I'm going to, you can preview it down here. So it's coming up as an error because we haven't actually inputted anything into our timeline yet, and that's fine. We're going to in a second. I'm going to open it into a new window, and so we've got it there. And now we're going to start adding things into it. We'll come back. We're going to add 5 slides with some information, and then we're going to come back and we're going to refresh it, and we're going to see what the changes are. Do you have any questions so far? No? Okay, so the first row is going to be our title row. This is going to effectively be the title page of the timeline. So when people load in, this is the first thing that they're going to see. And that's set as default already. NightLab had already set this first row as my title slide. You can change it, but I'm going to leave it because that's what we wanted. So I'm going to copy and paste into the headline the name of the timeline that we want. You can add text as well. I've got a little bit of text. No, I didn't want text. No, instead of text, I'm going to add an image. And this is an image that I have already uploaded to a hosting site. And it's actually a photograph that I took myself when I was in Halifax last year. So we're going to add some media, and the media link is going to go into here. So I've already got the link saved. The link's going to look like this. And that's the URL that goes direct to the image that I want to show on the timeline. I'm also going to add a caption just to say that this was a photograph that I took myself. But I've also added that it was courtesy of the West Yorkshire Archive because it was actually in their library. So just to check that things are working correctly, I'm going to go back and refresh the timeline just to see if something comes up. Why hasn't it come up? Okay, let's try again. Okay, let's try doing this again. Remove that and paste again and see what happens. Preview. What am I doing wrong?
I think so the blue line you have is the title. I think you also have to have at least one event for it to register.
Oh, okay, yeah, you could be right actually. Okay, well let's add a date then. Thank you, Chantal. So slide 1, I'm going to add when Anne first started writing her diary. And we're going to add a title. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. This is why I said we'd add five slides first and then check. So I'm just copying and pasting over. So this is going to be the headline of the first slide, and then I'm going to add some body text to it too. I'm going to copy and paste that in there. It looks, you're going to have, this is something you have to get used to. The spreadsheet will sort of stretch to fit your text, and that's yeah, it might look a bit messy, but it's fine because it's where you need it to be. So, right, let me go and check this now. Let's see how we go.
Yeah, I have not seen it like repeatedly try and load like that before without loading something.
No, I haven't either. I hope that NightLab aren't having the day off, wasn't it?
Right?
Like it's today of all days. I'm going to continue just adding the information, adding the text, and maybe is it the way that I published it perhaps?
Web entire, yeah, it looks, all of that looks right. Yeah,
Let's try, should we try entire as well?
It looks good, but
I don't understand.
yeah, try and then try and repull the, yeah, see if that will work, and then repull the URL.
Okay, let's try again.
It is possible that NightLab are having some issues or something over the weekend. So I guess maybe we could just still see how you put it together, and then maybe go through the Lister timeline to see what it looks like in real life.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Okay. Finally, we got there. Okay, so I'm going to open it now. So this is now displaying our title slide and also the first slide that we have already put in. So we've navigated from here and the text that we put in there to credit my photograph, which is a bit ropey, but it'll do. And that's our first slide. Yay, we did it. Okay, good. So I'm going to continue adding a few more. I've got some more images to get through. So we've got an image here of Aaron. And this is the portrait by Joshua Horner. When you copy and paste, it changes the colour, which is a bit annoying, but it's easiest to copy and paste it. It doesn't matter. You can format the colours however you want to. Something that can be quite useful is if you've got different types of events that you're adding, you can colour code it. And this is what I did with the Lister timeline, just because there's such a huge amount of content. It was easier for me to colour code it so that I could very quickly find what I was looking for. Say if it was a travel, I had all the travels highlighted in yellow or color coded in yellow. Okay. So this is where we're adding the dates. You can actually be really thorough with your dates. You can add a year, month, date, time, and you can end that event as well. And if you put an end event, it will actually span across your timeline to cover those dates, which can useful. It can be really useful if you've got something that has a specific end, start and end. And that's something that I haven't done with Anne's travels, but something that could be done with Anne's travels. Sometimes it's not always easy to figure out when Anne was arriving in a place and leaving a place. And also, she did so much traveling, it's so difficult to sort of have all of those travels represented in one timeline with the addition of all the other information that we had. So, do we have any questions, guys, or I'm just plugging away?
Oh, I see a message from Kate that says, is it possible to generate a report that prints out the timeline for easier reference? Ooh, I don't know. Has anybody printed out their timeline?
No, I don't think. I mean, I suppose you could print your spreadsheet, but you can't do much with that. I don't know if you can actually go in and print the thing.
Yeah, I've never seen a setting for that.
I suppose you can try to print the website, but then you lose the navigation aspect of the thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to grey these because it's really getting me. Okay, so we've almost got 5 slides. Once we get the 5 slides, I'll refresh and we can see what it's starting to look like. We did research all of this information, so it is all accurate to the best of our knowledge. So, in this example, we're going to use some HTML code. Because Marlene actually wrote an excellent article about Anne Walker and the Lunacy Commission, I have made a link that links directly from this slide to the article that's sitting on the Pact with Potential website for people to go and access it and read a little bit more information, because obviously I can't fit that all in the timeline, but it's useful to come here to the timeline and then be able to link off it to another resource that's going to give you a little bit more information about this event.
Ooh, Amanda, there's another question. So can these be done vertical as well as horizontal?
I have never tried.
Me neither. Yeah, I've not.
No.
And sorry, Patricia asked if you could briefly review what happened at the beginning and how you corrected it. When you republished the link.
Yeah, that was a bit of an anomaly, really. We just went over the process again, really. We did exactly this again. And I think I changed it from one sheet, so just the one sheet, I changed it to the entire document and then it worked. Is that what I did? I think that's what I did. Yeah, there's a little bit of trial and error. And if you're making a timeline and you really come into some serious issues, please just reach out. Like, we can help. I'll try my best to help as much as possible. So yeah, that was a little bit of HTML, which is just sort of an instruction to your browser to show something in a very specific way. And you can actually get a lot more help from this website here. And you can go through and you can just go through at your leisure and look up specific things and read a little bit more about it. It's very useful. But we're not going to get into it too much because it can get a little bit overwhelming. Are we good for time, guys?
Yeah, we're at 30.
Oh, okay, right, we're nearly at 5 slides, so we should be good. I'm going to refresh after this slide. It really is very useful to get your preparation done and then just plug it in like I'm doing right now. That is probably the easiest way to do it. Although I must say that is not how I went about creating the Unlisted timeline.
Ditto.
And I know that Jenna's actually watching as well. And I must say, a shout out to Jenna because she has also worked on the Unlisted timeline with me. And she put quite a lot of time into it too, Jenna. So take the credit also. We both put a lot of hours into it. Okay, I'm going to tidy it up a bit because it just sets off my OCD a little bit. Right, okay, I think we're ready. I don't see any errors. The other thing to note that if you do make a date error at all, the timeline might freak out. So it's best to just double check that you've got everything in correctly, everything is displaying correctly. The other thing to note is if you leave your cursor in a cell in the spreadsheet and then you go back to update, it won't update with the information in the cell that you've left your cursor in. So you must click out into a blank cell in order for the timeline to update properly. That's something I learned along the way. Okay, so let's go back to the start and refresh. And hopefully we'll have some slides. Handy little thing, you can zoom in and out of your dates here, and it will change your times at the bottom so you can sort of get a little bit more precise and accurate with the time span that you're looking at. So let's have a click through and see what we've got. No RAM. This background is greyed out. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm going to go and have a look in a minute. They should all be white because I don't think I had set it to grey. Maybe that's the default from NightLab. So next slide. Not too many, too many. And you can see here, this is where the date displays. The date that I inputted into that column displays here. Then you've got your title, and then you've got the body of the text. And it also shows up down here. So your little tabs will have the same title for the slide that you're using. That's another picture that I took when I was in Halifax. Now this is the slide where we added the HTML for the link. So this is the date that Anne Walker was left Shipton Hall. And this is the link to Pact with Potential, the article. It should just link to that. Why doesn't it?
Hey, Amanda, can you go back to the cell in the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you forgot to close the paragraph tag after closing the link.
I don't think you have to close paragraph tags though, do you?
Yes, you do. Otherwise, HTML is annoying. Let's try it now.
Okay. Okay, so another thing to note, you can't just refresh individual slides. You have to refresh the entire timeline in order to update any changes anywhere in the whole thing. But if you want to quickly get back to a place where you have made an alteration and you want to see it and you don't have to click through everything, you can just click this and pull it along. Just drag it to where you want it to go. Like we're racing through the years there. And then find what you're looking for. No, it's still not.
Oh, wait.
I wonder why. It is
Can
correct.
you hover to see the... No, on the other... can you go back to the timeline?
Mm-hmm.
Hover there. When you click, a balloon popped up. Try clicking again.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, there was...
I know it just is the dictionary.
No, but there was one with something in red before. Oh, just click once, please.
Yeah, I'm just clicking once, it's not doing anything.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway,
One out.
it worked when I trialed it. I don't see what is wrong there.
I think I know what it is. Try instead of the after the equal sign in ref, instead of using that one, use the caret symbol.
Oh, and your A isn't closed. The first A.
No, yeah.
No, it closes here.
No, it's closed. No, the first A is closed right next to where it says click. But the caret symbol is important here because otherwise it will be, well, okay, now it should work.
Let's try, yeah.
href.
Yep, there you go.
Let's go and see. This is how tricky HTML can be. So it can be useful, but it can also be a real pain. No, we're still not getting it. Anyway.
Okay. Do you want it to open on a new window?
Yeah, it should do.
Okay, so you have to go there, and before the closing of the first day near click, you have to give it a space and write target equals blank underscore blank.
I think we should just leave it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just leave it. But
It's
anyway,
just,
that's
yeah. I mean, ordinarily it would work, and if I had probably gone and copied it directly out of here, it probably would have worked. It did work for me before, but never mind. Yeah. Oh, and that photo hasn't come up. So these are the things, when you go back through, you do the work in the spreadsheet, and then you click through and you say, okay, I need to go back and sort of change that that link. That link isn't working for whatever reason. So it is really like trial and error. So I have got some more slides. You can maybe try adding a few more. No, this is a good one. So we want to put this in. Do we have any more questions?
I haven't seen any questions,
Okay.
but Patricia says this is brilliant.
Excellent. I'm
Also,
so pleased.
finding these tools.
Yeah, and also like real life demonstration of the frustrations that you're definitely probably going to experience when building a timeline. That date was incorrect. I'm just fixing that.
Yeah, there were several slides on mine where I was like changing background colors and trying to add italics and yeah, with the spreadsheet being so finicky and temperamental, like there were multiple times I was talking to it and telling it to behave.
Yeah, talking, I don't know, shouting, screaming perhaps is more accurate. There we go, another slide.
We have a question. Patricia says, you know, great for any presentation. Do you accept all timelines offered? I'm not.
The website?
Yes. Or was it, or what is your editorial process on timelines? Oh yes, before posting. I assume that's for the website.
I mean, generally it needs to be sort of related to Anlister in some sort of way, I would say, with our name being Anlister Timeline. But I mean, don't feel obliged to, you know, to come and host it on my website. If you don't have to do that, I'm more than happy to if that's what you would like to do. But we don't necessarily have any sort of editorial process at the moment. I just came up with a few ideas and asked these guys if they wanted to get involved, and they were like stupid enough to agree. How are we going for time? We've got a little bit longer left, yeah?
Yeah, we've got actually 10 minutes left.
Oh, great, okay, cool. So I'll finish these last few and then we'll load it on again. We'll review it again.
Yeah, yeah, having these issues pop up here is probably helpful because then we can talk through options.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is, you just have to troubleshoot things to figure out what you did wrong. Maybe you typed something incorrectly, or you put a number in the wrong place and that's thrown the whole spreadsheet out. That's just what happens. Okay, so this is slide number 10.
So Patricia says you are publishing these on Packed with Potential as a resource, correct? So these are posted on the anlistertimeline.com, and then there is a link on Packed with Potential to this website as well.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing because I made the website separately to Packed with Potential, but then we decided to include it as to link off it, just as a place to hold the content basically, because you will just, I'll show you this shortly. We'll go back and we'll figure out, you know, the sharing, how to share this with social media and share it anywhere online. you do end up with just a link to a place. And so I wanted to have all of these travel maps and the timelines held in one site so that you could see it all in one place, instead of just having random links thrown around social media that eventually get lost because time moves on.
Yeah. We have another question from Amy Wilcoxon. She just saw on the Mariana timeline that a YouTube video has been inserted. Would you just insert the YouTube video link in the media column?
Yes. Chantal, you could probably speak on that because you did that.
Oh, but yeah, to answer your question, the media column is where, if it's an image or a YouTube video or really any video,
Yeah,
you can put those in there.
You
And
can
then
add anything in there.
Yeah. And then there will be, I don't know if this was in one of your slides, but the media credit and the media caption show up in different locations. So those are something else that you just want to play around with, because sometimes it can look offset, like if your media credit is bigger than your media caption. So that's something. But yeah, all media you can just pop in the media column.
I think at some stage, either you decided, and then I followed your guidance on it, you decided just to use one or the other.
Yes, because I spent so much time trying to figure out how to make them look nice if I was using both of them, that yeah, I think that's
really the stylistic choices are completely down to you. It's entirely up to you how you want it to look, how you want it to feel. So we're just going to refresh and go through all of the slides again. Oh, the link is working now. There we go. Okay, so this should open directly into the article. There we go, and it does. There we go. That works. Okay, so obviously the little messing around with it that we did worked, and it just took a minute for those alterations to load into the back end of the timeline. So we got there in the end. That image is still not working for unknown reasons. It's all right, it's only Sutherland.
yeah.
We don't need to see him. And that's another image that I added just then. And there we go. 10 slides. So that's what a timeline looks like. It covers quite a long period of time, obviously, because we're going from the very beginning of the diary creation up until John Lister inherited Shibden Hall, so that's quite a long time. So now we're just going to go back to the website, to the timeline website, and these links here, step number 4 is how to share your timeline. So this link here will be a timeline direct link. So if you copy and paste that out, I'm going to copy, control copy, and I'm going to open a new tab and lose my browser. And I'm going to paste that link directly in there. Enter. And it's loaded it up. So I can now go and share that link anywhere online, and that it will always come up with that timeline. You can also embed it in a website. I tend to choose not to do this because sometimes it does come up showing a little bit messy, but it's entirely up to you. If you want to embed it in your own website or in a web page or something that you've been working on, then that's what you would use. You'd use this embed code here, and you would just do exactly the same, copy and paste it, and then paste it into where you want the iframe. It's called an iframe tag, where you'd want that to show. And that's it. Do we have any time for any questions? Are there any questions?
Yeah, we've got 4 minutes. Kristen says, can you delete a timeline at nightlab.com?
Can you delete one?
Yeah, I'm sure you can. I've never
tried to.
I guess you just delete the spreadsheet, though. If you delete the spreadsheet and it has nothing in it, then the timeline has no gather the information.
Or maybe just unpublish it.
Yes, if you unpublish your spreadsheet or you just remove it, move it to bin, that will remove the whole spreadsheet probably from the internet.
And also one of the things that Livia pointed out is that eventually we will be having a spreadsheets, not in this summit, but we will be having a spreadsheet, how-to spreadsheets eventually to help everybody get better acquainted with this. So look out for that coming hopefully soon after all of this is done.
Yeah. And also take note, I am not a spreadsheet expert. I do my best with the knowledge that I have, but I still manage to make a timeline. And if I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yes. Okay. Any more last questions? We have a few minutes. Or did anybody want to see Amanda do something one more time or add? One of the other cool things that you can do is, like, here you can see she's got an image and an explanation, but you can also add images to the background.
You can, yeah.
Instead of just color, there's a column for that as well. So there's lots of things you can do to add your own pizzazz to your timeline.
Yeah, I mean, it's endlessly customizable, to be honest. There are things about these timeline spreadsheets that we even haven't discovered yet. I discovered something the other day, and I shared it with Chantal and Marlene, and it blew our minds. It's a constant learning process, so don't feel like you're coming at this with no knowledge whatsoever. Everybody starts from zero, and we're all just learning and sharing together.
Yeah, and afterward, if anybody needs assistance, yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all on social media. We're all available. You can email me, yeah, anytime.
Yeah, excellent. We've got Natalie says, thank you, ladies. Alexandra, thanks everyone, so helpful. Tricia says, we're so proud of all of you. Kirsten,
Oh, thank you.
thank you all for coming. Okay, well, we have 1 minute left. Any last minute question? We good? Thanks, Gabriella, Amy. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.